Okay, do me a favor. Close your eyes for a second. I want you to picture a Neanderthal. You know the guy, heavy brow ridge, hairy back, standing there grunting at a rock trying to figure out which end of the spear is the pointy one. That's the story we've been told for 100 years, isn't it? We, Homo Sapiens, are the iPhone 16 Pro of evolution. Sleek, fast, genius. And the Neanderthals, they were the brick phone, obsolete, a biological dead end. But there's a massive problem with that story, and it is staring us right in the face. If you take a Neanderthal skull and pour sand into it to measure the volume, something scientists actually do, you find something that shouldn't be there. Their brains were bigger than ours. On average, the Neanderthal brain was significantly larger than the brain you are using to watch this video right now. I'm not talking about a rounding error here. I'm talking about raw processing power. If brain size was the only metric for intelligence, they should be the ones making YouTube videos about us. They should be the ones flying to Mars. They should be the ones wondering why those cute, small-brained sapiens pets went extinct 40,000 years ago. So here is the hook. If they had the hardware, if they had the raw power, why are they gone? And why are we still here? Did we outsmart them? Did we murder them? Or, and this is the scary part, did we just swarm them with mediocrity? What if I told you the genetic proof suggests they weren't dumber? What if they were actually smarter? Let's rewind. 200,000 years ago, Europe isn't a vacation spot, it's a frozen hellscape. And living here is a creature that has mastered something you think is a modern invention, industrial chemistry. For decades, archaeologists found lumps of black sticky goo on Neanderthal tools. They assumed it was just tree sap, simple, primitive. Except, you can't just scrape this stuff off a tree. To get birch tar, you have to heat bark to exactly 340 degrees Celsius, not 300, not 400, and you have to do it without oxygen. They were building industrial-grade chemical reactors out of dirt and ash to synthesize a polymer that doesn't exist in nature. And they weren't just chemists. They were architects of the dark. Deep inside Bruniquel cave in France, researchers found something that honestly creeps me out a little. 176,000 years ago, way before us, they broke off hundreds of stalagmites and arranged them into perfect geometric circles deep underground. This required constant lighting, planning, and ritual? They weren't just surviving, they were building. Modern archaeologists failed to replicate the tar method for years. It required a level of understanding that rivals modern engineering. But to understand the mind that built that reactor, we need to look at the software. We need to go to a high-tech lab in San Diego, where Dr. Alison Muotri decided that looking at bones was boring. He wanted to see a Neanderthal brain, alive. So he built one. He took human stem cells and used CRISPR to edit their DNA. He targeted a gene called NOVA1. You and I have the modern version. Neanderthals had the archaic version. It's just one letter different in the genetic code. One tiny letter. And this is where it gets weird. The human mini-brains grew into smooth, spherical balls. But the Neanderthal mini-brains, they looked like popcorn. They were lumpy, jagged. The surface area was totally different. And the neurons inside, they were wiring up at a speed that blew the human cells out of the water. Human brains take years to wire up. We are born helpless. But the Neanderthal brains created complex, oscillating networks almost instantly. A Neanderthal child likely hit the ground running, alert, aware, processing the world with an intensity we can't match. They weren't stupid. They were accelerated. But wait, if they were faster, why did we win? There's another gene called TKTL1. We have a shiny new mutation that they didn't have. Our version pumps up the production of neurons specifically in the frontal lobe. So while their brains were bigger overall, our frontal lobes, the social control center, were denser. We evolved to be better at cocktail parties. But in biology, there's always a trade-off. You can have flexibility or you can have precision. Before we get to the trade-off that explains modern life, I want you to comment below. Are you a fast learner who hates small talk or a social butterfly who needs to talk through problems? Your answer might reveal more about your DNA than you think. Scientific studies on Nova-1 suggest Neanderthal brains were wired for local hyperconnectivity. They were incredibly good at processing details, visual details, spatial details. We know from their skulls they had massive visual cortexes. They literally saw the world in 4K, while our ancestors were watching in 720. This leads to the solitary forager hypothesis. Imagine a being that doesn't need a group to survive. A being that can memorize a 50-square-mile territory down to the individual tree. A master engineer, alone in the woods. That is a terrifying level of individual competence. Think about what that visual superpower means. Today, we have tests for visual search, finding a target in a messy background. People with this specific systemizing cognitive profile destroy those tests. They don't see a forest, they see every leaf. They don't guess, they calculate. It's not a disorder, it's a high-performance operating system. But here's the catch. While they were hyper-focused on reality, we were doing something else. We were hallucinating. Our brains are wired for social connection. We sacrifice that raw processing power for the ability to tell stories, to lie, to believe in things that don't exist, to form a hive mind. When we poured into Europe, we didn't win because we were smarter individually. We won because we were the Borg. We were a network. Individually, a Neanderthal could outthink and outsurvive us, but collectively, they didn't stand a chance against the swarm. And this brings me to the twist. Does this cognitive profile, high visual intelligence, obsession with detail, hyper-focus, less interest in social chit-chat, sound familiar? Geneticists are now finding that Neanderthal DNA variants are enriched in populations with autism. That disorder might just be the old OS running on modern hardware. Think about it. In a high-tech world, who thrives? The people who can sit for 12 hours debugging code? The people who visualize complex systems? 50,000 years ago, that autistic profile was a superpower. It was the default setting for a solitary hunter. Today, it's the default setting for a software engineer. And it's not just the brain. Are you a morning person? Do you wake up at 6 a.m. ready to go? Thank a Neanderthal. They lived in the north for thousands of years. Their circadian rhythms were tuned for long winters and short summers. We stole that code to survive the latitude. It wasn't just biology, it was tech. We found a 40,000-year-old cord in France. Neanderthals were twisting fibers, understanding tension and mathematics to create ropes. They weren't just banging rocks. They were weavers. They were chemists. They were artists. We also stole their antivirus software. When we met them, we didn't just swap stories, we swapped germs. A huge chunk of the Neanderthal DNA we carry today is there because it helped us fight off ancient RNA viruses. We survived the Ice Age because we inherited their immune system. As we build AI, we are starting to use organoid intelligence, computers made of biological brain tissue. And guess what? The popcorn Neanderthal structure might be more efficient for specific calculation tasks than the human structure. We are literally resurrecting their minds to build the next generation of computers. Why? Because we used to think more connections meant smarter. But it turns out the Neanderthal sparse network, fewer connections but stronger local ones, learns faster with less data.
It's energy efficient. Our social brains are energy hogs. If you want an AI that doesn't burn down the power grid, you build it like a Neanderthal. We are heading into a future that requires intense focus and the ability to tolerate isolation, like a trip to Mars. The social hive mind goes crazy in isolation, but the Neanderthal mind, it was built for the void. Maybe we didn't just inherit their noses, we inherited the software humanity needs to leave Earth. We are a hybrid species. That tiny percentage of Neanderthal DNA hiding in your cells isn't junk, it's a feature. We supplied the network, they supplied the node processing power. So next time you struggle with small talk, just tell them your nodal 1 gene is running on archaic settings. Thanks for watching.